In today's video, we're going to do a deep dive into Goodyear, Arizona and figure out how much money you need to safely afford a house in Goodyear. We're not only going to look at the houses for sale, we're going to analyze the data for the sold data. We're going to look at the market, look at the average sales price and see where it's trending upward, downward, and really just get a good idea of can you afford a house in Goodyear, Arizona. So let's get started. And let's first start off by looking at the average sales price. Now, this number is a little bit spooky. According to the numbers here, the average sales price is $517,000. But, there's a lot of houses in Goodyear, so we're not going to focus on that too much. But I figured I'd show you. We had Goodyear with massive price of values. The tippy top was May 22. And then from there, we've dropped. And then since April 2023, yes, it goes up and down. But if you look at that mean line, it's like trending about a little bit upward trend, but flat. So not as shocking as this or shocking as this, more of a nice steady growth. So we'll only see what happens until see if maybe maybe will start going correlating lower, will it starts to continue to go upward a little bit. Only time will tell. Let's actually break it down more further though, instead of just looking at the monthly average sales price and say 517, because in reality, you don't need that much money to buy a house in Goodyear. So first, let's start off with looking at the 3-bedroom, 2-baths. And now we're focusing on the last 30 days of solds, because if we look at actives, there's like houses up to according to the records. If I look at just 3-bedroom homes in Goodyear, that's it. So no 4 bedrooms, no nothing. Garage space is 2+. I can even take that off. And if I look at only the active data, it's going to look daunting. It's going to like, oh my gosh, there's 118 houses as low as 375, all the way up to 1.6 million. But when we're looking at this kind of data, it's better to look at the closed data, because if we adjust that here, that number goes to 51. So there actually is less activity happening than there are houses for sale. And we'll see that the actual closed numbers are a lot more doable. 350, 350, 354, 362. So the actual prices that people are paying are a lot less. Essentially, a 3-bedroom house, the prices range as low as $350,000 all the way to $763,000. But that majority of houses, so there's 51 in total, about 15 of the 51 are under $400,000. 18 of the 51 are between $300,000 to $400,000. And 10 of them are in the $500,000 range. And of course, everything else, you can just kind of figure out the math there. You don't have to spend $500 something thousand with average sales price. For a 3-bedroom home, it looks like you can safely, comfortably afford something in the 300s to low 400s, depending on what you're looking for. For those not familiar with Goodyear, of course, there's different varieties, but basically I like to break down Goodyear in 3 areas. Straight Mountain Ranches is the master community down there south. There's Southern Goodyear, which has a good mix of older homes that are 10, 15, 20 years old, and some newer houses, especially here in the southern area. And then we have Northern Goodyear that has a lot of much more value, because it has that residual value from Litchfield Park, Palm Valley, etc., etc. Obviously, prices range. If I were just to guess the top of my head, 300 to 450-ish will be right here. 500 plus will be down here and down here. Maybe some 400-ish here in a straight mountain, but they'll obviously be a lot smaller. And that just comes from experience. Now, if you're looking for a 4-bedroom, that number goes from 51 to 29. So there's less of 4-bedroom selling, and let's see what the prices are for. Right now, they're actually just as the 3-bedroom ones. Now, there's a small pocket of Goodyear that's older homes, so that's where this one's coming in. But either way, there's still some 369, 380, 390. So other than that older house, it does look like it bumps up to the 380 range for now, at least. So for $400,000 houses in Goodyear, up to about 7 of the 29 houses are under $400,000. 12 of the 29 are between $400,000 to $500,000. And of course, everything else, you can fill in the blank there. So if you wanted to buy a 4-bedroom house in Goodyear, you're probably going to have to spend between $380,000 to the $400,000, something comfortably. But once again, you're not looking like you need to spend over $500,000 or whatever the average sales price is. And for all my people who have massive families, 5-bedroom plus, there are approximately only 4 houses that sold in the last 30 days. And funny enough, if you go look at the actives, there are 38. So you might be fooled into thinking, oh my gosh, there's so many houses for sale. Must be a crazy market. No. Oh, they're all struggling right now, and obviously it's a good chance to get them a good deal. Only about 4 of them sold, and it's between $514,000 to $600,000. So it looks like for sure off the bat, I can tell you that for some reason, if you want over 5-bedroom, you're probably going to spend above $500K. And that's at least where it's trending. Overall, it depends on where you want and what you want. You want a 3-bedroom? Okay. You probably can spend between $350 to $400 at the cheapest, but obviously depends on the area where you want to be. A 3-bedroom might be a lot more expensive in northern Goodyear versus the mid Goodyear. If you want 4 bedrooms, it looks like $380 to $400-ish, $450-ish is going to be where you want to be at. And if you want anything bigger than that, it's going to be $500K plus. So can we afford these houses? Well, first, let's start off by just using $400,000, just kind of that midpoint. Once again, if you need to go cheaper, you can adjust. If you need to be more expensive, you can adjust, but we're just going to use $400,000 as a base price. Let's say you're trying to spend, 5% down. That's usually what most people do nowadays. So we'll do 5% down, 30 years. Right now, the interest rate is in the low 7s, so pretty good. I mean, good is subjective. Better than where it was before, the 8% range for sure. And let's adjust these taxes and home insurances with the Goodyear. Now, Goodyear has pretty awesome home insurance. Honestly, most people that buy end up being like, especially if they have a good situation, between $60 to $100 a month. So let's put about $80 a month. For property taxes, it very much varies. If you're buying down in the Stray Mountain Ranch, yes, you're going to have higher taxes, especially because they roll in that CFD assessment and all these other things. But if you're going to be mid to North Goodyear, you shouldn't expect to spend as much. Let's just pull up a random house here in the $400,000 price range so we can see that for ourselves what that looks like. This house here has taxes of about $1,000 a year. So I'm going to just conservatively say about $1,200 a year. So about $100 a month for your taxes. So it's actually a lot less. Now you probably will have to pay HOA, especially most of the houses are in the Goodyear area have HOA. So I'm anticipating at least $60 a month. And PMI. So PMI really varies on what kind of mortgage you get. If you're going conventional and you have great credit, you might see this be very minimal. If you're going FHA, you might see this be $100 to $200. So I'm just going to put $100 for now. And of course, if you're putting 20% down, then you're going to be in a much better position. All in all, once you break everything down, it looks like you're only paying about $2,600 a month. Sorry about that, guys. That wasn't really clearly working on me, so I had to switch over to another calculator. And it's showing me actually that monthly payment is about $2,868 with a 7% interest rate at $400,000. If we were to switch this to $350 or a cheaper price, switch over the taxes again to $100 a month. Insurance was I think $80 a month, and HOA was $60 a month. We can switch that down now. We can see that goes down to $2,618. So we can safely assume if we're going to $450, it's probably going to be 180, 60. Yeah, $3,298, about $200 difference. So essentially $2,600 to $3,200 is what you're paying right now at the moment because the rates are super high. At best, maybe let's assume $2,700 a month. Can you afford a house for $2,700? All right, now that we have a good solid understanding of what monthly payment you need to afford a house in Goodyear, let's figure out what kind of monthly income you need to comfortably afford it. Because first and foremost, there's a big difference between what you can qualify for versus what you can afford. To figure out what you can qualify for, really a lender, what they do is they'll qualify you at most to allowable debt to income ratio of 45% of your gross income. Gross income is the money that you make on paper, not what you're bringing home, just what's on paper. So if you're making, let's say, $5,000 a month, you might only see $3,000 or $4,500 of it or something, right? I don't know, depending on what you take out for taxes and whatnot. That's mostly the time how it works. What they do, just very bare bones here, they get your gross monthly income, they multiply it by 45%, and then from that number, they subtract any minimum monthly payments you have on your credit cards, not what you pay your minimum payments, your card payments and stuff like that. So basically, knowing this, we can work our way backward and say, okay, how can we figure out what the monthly payment that works for us? So if 45%, we need to multiply that by the gross monthly income, which is what we're solving for, and that equals at least, $2,600, we can work around this and find that number. So what we can do is we can divide 45% or 0.45 to get rid of this 45, leaving only the gross monthly income, and we also have to divide on the other side. I know we're doing some algebra, but just bear with me here. I promise you, you're smart. We'll get through this and this will make sense. 2,600 divided by 0.45, and that gives us approximately 5,777. if you have no debt whatsoever, all you need to make is about $5,777 to qualify bare bones just for $2,600. So let's just say, I don't know, $6,000. You need to make about $6,000 if you have almost no debt. $6,000 in gross monthly income equals to, what is that, $72,000 a year? Gross. Yeah, gross. Let's say gross because that's insane. Because if you think about it, you're not actually taking home $6,000. Let's work a way around it. Let's say you do make $72,000. You have very little debt or you have no debt. Essentially, you're not actually bringing home $6,000. You might only bring in like what, $4,500 really? So if you think about it, a lender will qualify you for this, but the payment of $2,600 makes up about what? Because it would be a $2,600 monthly payment. That makes up approximately 57% of your net income, which is crazy. More than half of your income is going to it. Because remember, lenders they're not basing it off budget. They're basing it off what works for their system. And they're not going to tell you they're salespeople. It's just a business that we're in, right? So working our way around, not using the lending system, but using our brains and using what the laws of budgeting tells us. The laws of budgeting is quite simple. There's really a range here. They say, the great rules dictate that if your mortgage exceeds 20 to 30% of net income, you are house poor. So that being said, what would we have to do? Well, that means that $2,600 should at most only be 30% of this mysterious number that you actually need to afford or need to be making net to afford. And that number, my friends, because remember, we do the same thing, divided by 0.30 to get rid of it here, so we only stay with X, but we also have to divide it over here. So 2,600 divided by 0.30, and that gives us 8,666. So you need to be making net at least 800,606 a month, or about $104,000 annually. Now, once again, this is net, so your gross is probably what, like $10,000, so about $120,000, right? So you need to be making at least $120K a year to comfortably afford just bare minimum $350,000 to $400,000 rate. Obviously, this sounds very tough. It basically eliminates all of our single family, not like single people, but people who only have a one house, like one person who works in the household, unless they make excellent income. $120,000 a year is mostly available for people who have two people who work. They're both making about 60 to 80 each, and they can both comfortably afford that. Or maybe, like I said before, a one-person household that works. So that's just where things are. Regarding where we're headed with Goodyear, I mean, no one can really predict the future, but I can tell you that all eyes are on inventory and pending sales. So if we just focus in on Goodyear, let's get rid of these other years, so only focus on 2024. What's going to happen with inventory? That's basically what's going to dictate, because 2020, when houses boomed, inventory was low. And if we look at demand, which we can analyze by looking at the under contract number, so we'll look at listings under contract. See 2021, we see the under contract number was high, and that's what made prices go up. 2022, when prices started dipping, inventory shot up and demand dropped down, so this made prices go down. So 2024, well, it looks like demand is already dropping, but unfortunately, listings are going up. So if listings go up, more supply, and demand is starting to go down, then prices have to drop too. So it looks like, at least specifically for Goodyear, we're starting to trend towards a price reduction. But of course, there's a lot of opportunity right now in Goodyear for there's a lot of new builds that you can buy yourself a new build and you get an interest rate of like 4% and stuff like that. If anything, if you're in a market to buy something, it just means you have to be super aggressive with your offer. Don't settle for just paying less price. Don't settle for just like, oh, this house pretty. Oh, this is so great. And I'm emotionally attached now, so I'm going to make a super high offer. The market is trending lower. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? But as rates are adjusting and modifying every day, things get modified. So if you're in a position where you're like, Javier, I'm tired of living in an apartment, I'm tired of living with my mom, I just want a place to call my own, then Goodyear is an option for you. just know prices seem like they're going a bit downer, so protect yourself by making sure to get a really good deal. And in this case, a really good deal in the Goodyear market is buying under list price as much as possible. But of course, I always tell people, this is nice, this video is nice to talk about Goodyear, but when you're looking at specific market data, the best thing you can do is look at your specific zip code or specific community. So if you're in the market to buy a home soon, I got two options for you, okay? One, if you're like, dude, I'm ready, I'm serious, let's go, you go like this and you rip your shirt, there's a website where you can schedule an appointment with me directly and just go and schedule a phone call or a virtual appointment. We'll get on the phone, we'll get it going. If you're like, listen, bro, I'm not gonna rip my shirt off, I'm still kind of thinking about it, but I want to maybe start the conversation and start looking at some houses online, go check out my website, Arizona Home Goals, make an account, start browsing some houses. You might get a text from me and say, hey, what's up, man, how you doing? You know, how's life living? And we can set up like a long-term game plan for you. So other than that, I appreciate you guys. Let me know if you have any questions below. Expect more videos from me soon. By the way, YouTube thinks you should go watch this video next, so go check it out. See what you guys think. Thank you guys. Appreciate you. Bye.